The working class mobilizes around the world to commemorate International Labor Day. In Cuba, convened by the Central Workers Union, various social sectors held a national parade to ratify their support for the revolution and condemn the strengthening of the blockade imposed by the United States. Russia rescued 80 civilians held by Ukrainian nationalists in Mariupol's Azovstal steel plant. The United Nations called on the international community to provide resources to address the humanitarian crisis in Yemen. Hi, this is From the South. I am your news anchor, Diego Martin, from the TeleSUR studios in Havana. We begin with the news. Workers of the world mobilized on May 1st as the world commemorated the importance of labor rights and the struggle led by the socialist organization called the Second International in 1889. With the presence of General Raúl Castro, historical leader of the revolution, and the president of Cuba, Miguel Díaz-Canel, the historic parade to celebrate International Workers' Day began in Havana's Revolution Square. Thousands of Cubans began to march in the main Cuban cities to commemorate the workers, especially in the health sector as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. From the early hours of Sunday, workers' unions around the world demand greater employment opportunities and decent working conditions. Human rights organizations also demand fair labor contracts for women and combat child labor. In Bolivia, citizens mobilized on Sunday as part of the International Labor Day. During the events, as every year, the demonstrators rendered tribute to the martyrs of Chicago, condemned to the hanging for the struggle of an 8-hour working day. They started with a march from the Avenue 6 of August of Oruro and the monument of Hacha Flores, a route that passed through the main streets of the capital of Oruro and ended at the Civic Avenue. The acts were accompanied by the heads of state Luis Arce and David Choquehuanca. In a speech during the day, the Bolivian president informed about a series of measures to be implemented on the labor environment, including a 3% salary increase to the basic salary and a 4% increase to the national minimum wage. Uruguayan citizens also mobilized on Sunday from early in the morning. Those mobilized gathered on a stage set up between the corner of Avenida Libertador and Valparaíso. One of the first and main speakers was Trade Union Secretary General Elvia Pereira, who during her speech highlighted the work carried out by the workers in their respective occupations. Likewise, she also made reference to the workers' demands for salary increases, describing as late and insufficient the government's measures to support the least favored sectors. In the Brazilian state of Minas Gerais, workers mobilized in commemoration of Labor Day to demonstrate the rejection of the government of Jair Bolsonaro. Among the protesters' complaints is the increase in unemployment rates, which reaches 12 million people. Brazilian social movements also warned that there are 40 million informal workers in the country. They also claim that hunger is increasing in the nation. According to the demonstrators, the government of Jair Bolsonaro will come to an end on October 2nd after holding general elections. In other regions of the country, events are being held for Labor Day and in rejection of President Bolsonaro.
Today we have a lot of unemployed people, a great hunger, a lot of people on the street without jobs, without housing to live in, people living on the street in Brazil. That's bad. And food prices are sky high. Sky high, yes. It is an immense inflation generated by Bolsonaro's government and his management. Management Joy Liberation in Brazil, and we're fighting against that. In 2023, we are going to return to Brazil the way of the future, the way of Latin America, the way of the future of workers.
In the Dominican Republic, workers went to the streets to commemorate International Labor Day. The demonstrators marched from early in the morning, ending at the Mauricio Báez Square in the capital city, Santo Domingo. During the day, they demanded the president of the country, Luis Abinader, to respond to their several demands, including the reduction and control of the prices of the family food basket and fuels, as well as the prices of all fuels. Likewise, they demanded a general increase in salaries, as well as a decent social security that will allow a change in the system of pension fund administrators and health risk administrators. They also demanded a labor code that solves the Dominican workers' health problems.
We have get together to commemorate a unitary and combative 1st of May,
with the determination to continue the efforts to generate a correlation of forces favorable to the mass struggle and achievements in the favor of the majority that conform the working people.
This May 1st in Cuba, the squares were filled with people to celebrate Labor Day. In Havana's Jose Marti Revolution Square, the celebration was presided over by Army General Raúl Castro and President Miguel Díaz-Canel. Our correspondent Fabiola Lopez tells us more.
After 2 years without marches on May the 1st because of the COVID-19 pandemic, at dawn with splendor, the square of the great events in Cuba. The call had been made by the Cuban president on social media. Let us gather in the square for resistance, for heroism, and the inspiring triumph of collective creativity for the vaccines and for those vaccinated, the president wrote on Twitter. The Great Parade began with 50,000 science and health workers.
People came, and we can see the response of the Cuban people to demonstrate to the world that Cuba neither surrenders nor can be sold. We will go forward in spite of the difficulties. Our dreams will come. Long live Cuba. Long live the world. Long live the working masses.
I am totally impressed by this celebration. I feel welcomed by Cuba. It is a sense of admiration for a country that has been heavily battered by the United States regime and that has bravely stood up throughout time, and that at this moment it is giving the world the gift of vaccines. We came to demonstrate the support that all the workers of Cuba have for the revolution and the process that we are carrying out. The workers of other sectors must also be supported, as well as those who have made possible the making of the vaccines in order to control the pandemic.
Some doubted, but many were certain, despite the blockade, scarcities and difficulties that burdened their lives, Cubans filled the squares. Observers noted a demonstration of unity and trust in the revolution.
We are still Cubans who love this country and who are patriots, and this square is ours. It will not be sold or left. This square belongs to the real Cubans.
I am 74 years old. I come to defend my revolution on a patriotic principle. Many thought that the square would not be full. No, no, no. On the contrary, we are here, standing tall and present, together with our President Díaz-Canel and Raúl Castro.
No one wanted to miss the opportunity. The new actors of the private sector also took part in the celebration, and together with Cubans, more than 1,058 friends from 60 countries from around the world celebrated International Labor Day.
In my country, going out to protest on May 1st is not a celebration, it is a sacrifice, because the Colombian state attacks and persecutes anyone who speaks out against the government. I see that you have been broadcasting live for a while now. What are you saying to Miami as a radio journalist there? I'm telling Miami, the United States and the world that these images cannot be blocked, that the Cuban people are not forced to come here, that they come with joy, that they come with courage, but also with a tremendous thought for the future, and that they know why they are defending the present. There are millions. These images cannot be blocked. And I hope that Mr. Biden, who has become Donald Trump, will finally understand that the relations between Cuba and the United States are millenary, and that they are necessary for both nations and both peoples.
Everything seems to indicate that unity is definitely the triumph card for Cubans. It was precisely on May 1st in this square that Fidel Castro told the people that revolution was unity and independence, and also to fight for the dreams of justice for Cuba and the world.
Fabiola Lopez, TeleSUR, La Habana.
We're going to take a short break now. Please join us again after this. Hi, and welcome back to From the South. In Venezuela, International Labor Day was celebrated with a demonstration organized by trade unions and social movements. The march began at different points in the capital city of Caracas, bringing together labor unions and public workers as well as representatives of the People's Power. The march arrived at the Miraflores Palace, seat of the executive power, where the president, Nicolas Maduro, expressed his solidarity and pride for those who strengthened the national productive apparatus, as he called it. At the Great March for International Labor Day, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro said that thanks to the people, to the entrepreneurs, and to the working class, the country is on the road to recovery of the social welfare state.
Venezuela is getting ahead. Venezuela will prosper. We will get the state of Bolivarian socialist welfare back in shape. We are making headway, man. And thanks to whom? To the people, to the working class. And also, it must be said, thanks to private entrepreneurs that decide to bet on their country, to the whole nation united, with the working class and the socialist project at the helm.
In Argentina, several social and political organizations and trade unions commemorated International Labor Day. Militants of social movements marched along 9 de Julio Avenue in the city of Buenos Aires. On this occasion, Argentinian President Alberto Fernandez praised the workers and their endeavor. He also referred to the job growth in the private sector steadily on the rise for the past 13 months. He also said his administration will be implementing economic policies that will provide greater support to the country's workers. In Spain, the leaders of the main labor unions highlighted the most recent labor victories while demanding more rights for workers on the International Labor Day. Around 50,000 people paraded and then gathered in the renowned Gran Via in the vicinity of Plaza España as part of the events to celebrate International Labor Day. During the event, the head of the Workers' Commission, Unai Sordo, and the leader of the General Union of Workers, Pepe Alvarez, said they regretted that the employers were concerned about safeguarding their company's profits without taking into account the preservation of workers' wages when inflation is soaring. In this sense, they stressed the importance of raising wages and controlling prices to guarantee equality. And in the Philippines, workers' groups mobilized on Sunday on the occasion of Labor Day as well. The mobilized workers gathered in the capital city, Manila, from very early in the morning, demanding respect for their labor rights while requesting higher salaries. They also expressed their rejection to the increase in prices of goods and services. Various sectors of transportation, women, young people, and senior citizens also joined the Labor Day protest. These demands also seek to extend a call to national candidates to address labor rights issues following the attacks on labor leaders and groups, with only 9 days to go before the high-profile elections scheduled to be held on Monday, May 9th. Meanwhile, in Thailand, thousands of workers also mobilized on Sunday to commemorate the International Labor Day. Social and labor sectors of the country are demanding an improvement in wages and living conditions. They also denounced the lack of labor protection shown after the COVID-19 pandemic. According to Thailand's National Statistics Office, 19.6 million people are informal workers, representing 52% of the country's labor force. Russia managed to rescue 80 civilians held by Ukrainian nationalists on the grounds of the Azovstal steel plant located in the city of Mariupol. Russian officials said the Russian army and the militia of the Donetsk People's Republic opened a humanitarian corridor and implemented a ceasefire for the safe evacuation of civilians from the site. The officials said all rescued civilians were taken to the town of Bezimenoye in the Donetsk Republic, where they were given shelter, food, and medical care, whereas those civilians wishing to travel to the Kyiv-controlled territories were handed over to representatives of the United Nations and of the International Committee of the Red Cross. Pope Francis once more called for the opening of humanitarian corridors in the Ukrainian city of Mariupol to evacuate civilians from the conflict zone. On Sunday, during a Mass in St. Peter's Square and after reflecting on the Gospel, the Pope made an appeal to attend to the humanitarian situation in Ukraine. Also, Pope Francis recalled that the elderly and children are suffering in the midst of the conflict between Moscow and Kyiv, being expelled from their territories. He also thanked the reporters for their work in bringing information about the armed conflicts. Regarding the Azovstal steel plant, the Pope called for the evacuation of the people trapped in the city.
Even now, even from here, I repeat my call for safe humanitarian corridors to be set up for the people trapped in the steelworks in that city of Mariupol.
We have more news coming up after a final short break. Please stay with us. Hi and welcome back. The United Nations called on the international community to provide resources to address the humanitarian crisis in Yemen. Resident and humanitarian coordinator for Yemen, David Gresley, said more than 23 million people, meaning almost three-quarters of Yemen's population, are in need of assistance and called on the members of the international organization to address the situation urgently. Gresley also called on the countries of the world that pledged at an international summit in April to make donations to raise money to help Yemen deal with the humanitarian crisis to fulfill their commitments. Worshippers gathered at Bamako's Grand Mosque for the Korite, also known as Eid al-Fitr, the festival that marks the end of Ramadan. This year, optimism prevails despite the sanctions imposed by ECOWAS on Mali 4 months ago. Service attendee Bandeju Gueye said even if the embargo had had an impact on the organization of the festival, the government took on all its responsibilities by subsiding all the basic food. Many consumers urged the government to take measures to stabilize the prices of basic necessities. Insecurity in certain areas and an embargo imposed by a regional bloc are having an impact on the lives of many Malians. The 15-nation bloc is pushing for Mali's military, which seized power in 2020, to stage elections within 12 to 16 months. Colombia reported the assassination of a well-known social leader in the department of Cauca. The member of the Regional Indigenous Council of Cauca, Yesid Caña, was murdered on Saturday at midnight after armed men entered the reserve of La Guada in a rural area of the Cardona municipality. The crime sparked indignation among the indigenous peoples settled in this region due to the high esteem in which Caña was held among the communities for his contribution to the conservation of culture and art. According to an Indepaz report with Yesid Caña, 61 social leaders have been murdered within the country since the beginning of 2022. And Chile reopens its land borders after a year of closure due to the coronavirus pandemic. Chile's National Migration Service announced on Saturday that most border crossings will be open as of May 1st. The measure aims to reactivate tourist activity and other services, which will normalize transit between Chile and its neighbor countries. Starting on May 1st, the Safe Borders Plan begins to operate, which normalizes the border crossings of Chile with the compliance of migration and health requirements for people who want to enter the country. Two people died and several had to be rescued on Saturday after heavy rainfall led to massive flooding in Guadeloupe. The Caribbean island is under a red alert for heavy rains and thunderstorms. Rainfall has exceeded 300 millimeters, a phenomenon higher than that recorded during Cyclone Maria. The exes of the Point area are flooded and landslides are reported in the Grand Fonds. The rains have also resulted in power outages and difficulties in water distribution. Looking at the situation, the public has been requested not to move in the Pointree area and not to hike in the mountainous area. Travel must remain limited to the rest of Guadeloupe. Aid workers cannot reach out to displaced people in flood-hit areas in Uganda as some roads and bridges have been washed off in the eastern and northeastern parts of the country due to flash floods following heavy rains, with hectares of farmland and homesteads destroyed. Homes and farmland have been submerged in more than 3 sub-counties, leaving scores of people homeless, according to the Uganda Red Cross. Local government relocated people to safer ground previously, but some remain high up in the mountains because of the fertile soil. Families are in urgent need of assistance, according to the organization. Currently, people are camped in schools and churches as disaster response teams assess the extent of damages and needs. The meteorological department warns that ongoing heavy rains will continue until the end of May.
There are families that have been evacuated from areas of Bulambuli, Bunambute, and even in the resettlement area where, I think around 2 years ago, the government relocated some people from Bududa.
We've come to the end of this news brief. Remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at TeleSUR English. You can also join us on social media for all the latest news from Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For TeleSUR English, I am Dio Martin. Thank you for watching.